Planning Committee meeting for June the 18th. And I need a motion on the minutes. Move seconded. All those in favor, contrary, carried. Next meeting is July 3rd. We have 4 items on the agenda. The first one is an application by Chris Panache for a zoning text amendment to the agriculture AG1 zone to permit a glass greenhouse with concrete footings at 12800 and 12910 number 2 road, and James Nadowich and Suzanne Smith are here. The recommendation is that we give it first reading, be introduced and given first reading because it would go to public hearing. James, you're on. Just a minute here. How do I do this here? I want to have fun. Okay. Suzanne, I'm going to not take it away from you. Take it. I have lots of partners over there.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This application is for a zoning text amendment to the agriculture AG1 zone to permit the use of one 81 square meter soil-based greenhouse with concrete footing foundations. In 2018, Council introduced new regulations to discourage the introduction of greenhouses with concrete flooring to protect high-quality soils for soil-based agriculture. Council also introduced a fast-track process for applicants who are applying for greenhouses with the use of concrete materials, provided they are for supporting a farm business. This application proposes the use of concrete footings in the form of a continuous concrete footing foundation. The greenhouse remains soil-based. The greenhouse will be utilized by Athena Acres, the farm operation on site, which has been in operation since 2022. The greenhouse is located in the northwest portion of the property, approximately 101 meters to the east of number 2 road. It will be used to grow a variety of produce, including tomatoes, cucumbers, strawberries, and herbs. The glass greenhouse will utilize primarily natural lighting, and it will not include the use of bright hydroponic lighting. The applicant has agreed to a covenant on title prohibiting the use of this type of lighting. This fast-track application was received on April 2nd of this year. It has come to staff's attention that the applicant has recently installed the greenhouse. While the applicant has made an application for a building permit, the zoning approvals and building permit issuance have not yet been granted. Building approval staff are aware and in contact with the applicant to ensure compliance and apply associated fees related to construction without an issued building permit. The applicant is also here today and available for questions. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Five. We're still getting used to this. Counselor 5, that's me. Okay, so on the map, so is this the greenhouse, like where that is there?
Through the chair.
On the aerial map that's on page 181?
Through the chair, it is on page 182 that shows the location of the greenhouse.
Okay, sorry. Oh, it's on the other side. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that's where it is. And so primarily vegetables, herbs, some flowers. We don't have to worry about this greenhouse being a grow-op for marijuana?
Correct. Through the chair, correct. They are using it for their farm business for produce.
Sorry, the question has to be asked. And I'm really pleased that there's no over lighting, because some of the greenhouses that you see in Delta, I mean, they just glow at night, and that's just horrible for birds and whatnot. So would it be just like according to what the building code is required for lighting, and then some grow lights? Is that the idea?
Through the chair, it's specifically lights regulated for the building permit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it for me.
There we are, Councilor number 8.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. So we introduced this new rule back in 2018. How many greenhouses have been permitted then, since then?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, none that have, like for greenhouses that don't have any kind of a concrete footing or piles, the kind that just have that loose fitting plastic sort of sheeting over them, there's no building permit required. This type of application involving the use of concrete for the foundation portion, we only have the one application for that.
Okay,
so
so
far.
since 2018, we've had one application, and it's for not the screw piles, but for the concrete, like just outline, right?
Through the chair, that's correct, for the use of concrete.
Okay, and so if they were to remove this, would they just take the concrete away and make it go away?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, well, they could choose to do an alternate method that doesn't involve concrete. However, my understanding is a quite extremely costly
No,
process
sorry,
to
my
use
question
piles.
was, if they decided not to have the greenhouse ultimately, like 20 years down the road, they'd dismantle the whole thing, take away the concrete footings and clean it up, correct?
That's correct, if they chose not to have the building.
Okay, so what's the difference between that and if they had the other kind of foundation, and in 20 years decided they didn't want that? Wouldn't they just dismantle the whole thing and take the footings away?
Do you mean for another greenhouse that?
Yeah, so if they had the different kind of greenhouse that
Yeah,
isn't this, what they're asking for, if they had the other kind, and if in 20 years they decided they didn't want to farm or do whatever they're doing, if they were to take that away, could they pick up all the pieces and take it away?
yes, that's correct. Through the other type of greenhouse, it doesn't require even a building permit. It's literally just a very thin structure with a film of
Oh, the
plastic
hoops.
sheeting over it.
Okay.
So it's very minimal, whereas this involves that concrete perimeter, continuous concrete footing around the outside. So it could be dismantled, but it would involve some effort.
Okay, so is the farming different that's able to happen in this than in just the hoop?
Yes, generally speaking, this is a larger structure. It has the use of glass and with metal pieces to support it. So in order to support the weight and size of this proposed greenhouse, this is it requires either the concrete as it's shown, or it requires a number of piles deep into the ground, which is quite a costly alternative to support posts, to be able to support the height and ensure that it doesn't shift so the glass panels break.
Okay, so there's not a huge difference in the impact to the land on a larger greenhouse with either building style, with the concrete footing or those screw piles or whatever they are.
Through the chair, there's only a minor difference between the two. It's just this involves the use of concrete, which was flagged in the previous process.
Okay, so and since we put in that change in 2018, has there been a change in the amount of farmed land here in Richmond? Have we had more or less, or has it stayed the same?
Through the chair, my understanding is it would have stayed the same.
Okay, all right,
Correct.
because I know I had a fellow that was interested, he bought a piece of property, it's, I don't know, 50 acres or something, he wanted to put up some greenhouses, and I'm like, whoa, 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 you're gonna have to get permits and all this other stuff. He's like, what? He was quite surprised, right? And now he's embarking on the whole process. And otherwise, he probably would have already had them put up and been farming, but under the circumstances, he hasn't. Okay, so the alternate systems are essentially quite similar, and we know that marijuana hasn't really taken off, so our concerns about marijuana production aren't there. So maybe this whole fancy footings on greenhouses isn't as necessary as we thought it was back in 2018. Okay, thank you.
All right. Here.
Oh, hello. Is it my turn? Can you hear me? I can't see the room anymore. I can't hear anybody there.
I can hear you, Michael. Just me,
Oh.
though. And I'm online, so that's not helpful.
I just shut him off.
Oh, there you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Councillor
perfect.
McNulty?
There we go, we got you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you navigating the technologies to let me participate here. Just a couple questions that follow up from Councillor Day and Councillor Liu's questioning there. I think I heard our staff presentation there use the word continuous concrete footing. So it's not, as I imagine, concrete slabs every few meters. Could you staff just confirm that? It's a continuous run of concrete?
Who's good? Okay, there we go.
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Wolf. I'm not sure if Mr. Cooper is here to speak in more technical terms. However, oh, he is. Right here. I will move from.
Okay, Mr. Cooper,
You
we'll
don't have to leave.
give you an answer on that.
So, through Mr. Chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, what is being proposed is continuous strip footing, very much like you would have for a house.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so I recall like the Garden City lands and other areas that had large concrete slabs. I think they were somewhat easier to remove at the end. There'd be a crane truck come in and lift them up and get them out of there, or drag them onto a flatbed. When you're done, like at the end of life for a concrete slab like that, do you have to break it up on site? Or can those be picked up in one shot and moved?
Okay, through the chair, I think the salient point is that we do not, under any circumstances, allow. Well, no, I wouldn't say that but in the zoning bylaw, a greenhouse is not allowed to have any concrete that touches the soil. That's the purpose for this application, is for a zoning text amendment to allow a concrete perimeter foundation. So there would be no slabs in any case.
Yes, which I really appreciate that this isn't asking for that much of a change to put in a concrete slab as the base, but still it's the base of the walls. And I'm just thinking about when this, in 2018, when we made this change, it was so that we wouldn't compromise the high quality soils like this has, which is the reason why this business is going to be so profitable here for decades to come. And when their operation ends, or when that greenhouse is end of life, my concern is that it's going to have to be broken apart on site, and then we'll be more likely to contaminate the site where there's now no concrete bits in it. My other question is, I heard that there's been no other applications for this kind of change since 2018. Does staff know if other, which obviously didn't need the building permit, but were there other greenhouses built in Richmond? I know there might not be glass on the outside, plastic, but this size or larger? So like the 6.4 meter by 12.6 meter, is this going to be a substantially large greenhouse in the city, or have other ones been built in the last 6 years like that size?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, this is not a particularly large structure. There have been other greenhouses executed in the past 6 years. They've used a different style of construction. They used materials that are different, that would allow more movement and don't need quite the stiffness in the foundation. The strip footing is actually probably 18 inches to 20 inches wide along the perimeter, and soil amelioration when those footings are removed is done actually on a pretty regular basis for other structures in the city.
Great, I appreciate that. The chair, just a couple of comments to follow up then. I won't have any other questions, but I am aware of greenhouses, and when they break or the glass shatters, the single plane ones can cause a mess on site. And also, whoever wants to take that soil and move it to their land later, they inherit all these shards of glass, which the Garden City lands did when we got some of the number 5 road soil from that former greenhouse operation. So I'm hoping this development or this project doesn't include glass that will shatter into such a forever problem for the city. And then my other comment is, I know this has gone to the Agriculture Advisory Committee, and I'm hoping at that point there was some communication with the success of the greenhouses at the Garden City lands that Kwantlen Polytechnic University has been managing, including the sliding high tunnels, which gives the farmer the opportunity to slide the greenhouse over top and have multiple sites going, and only one might need the protection of the greenhouse at a time, or the success of the passive solar dome. And maybe there's still option they can recreate or the plans and bring something like that also doesn't involve bringing in concrete. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak to the committee. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of staff? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
I'll move second.
Councillor Glanders wants
Oh, sorry, I didn't have, hang on. Let's go to Zoom again. And how do I catch her?
Hi, I never put my hand up.
Oh, sorry, we heard you.
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. Move seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you very much. So that will go to a public hearing next month. Okay? All right, thanks very much. The next item we have on the agenda is the Richmond Youth Advisory Committee proposed work program, and the recommendation is for it to be approved. And we've got Claire Adamson and Grace Hu. So, ladies, what do you have? Who's going to speak? There you go. I've got one. You're live.
Thank you. Staff have nothing further to add to the report and are happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I'm not sure who was, Councillor 8 was first on my list. Alexa.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I appreciate it. In the report, it says that some of the stuff they'll be working on is review current and upcoming city initiatives related to youth and determine. Will they also be able to come up with some of their own or make recommendations?
Through the chair, as part of our discussion as part of the committee, we will be going through some topics of interest for the youth members and organizational reps. And from that, prioritize what is important for the committee members. And there will be opportunities for them to engage in subcommittees if they would like. But staff will go through the process with the committee to determine their topics of interest first.
Okay, because it seems to me that we also have the opportunity as council to make a request of them if we're interested in them, say, coming up with things or driving that bus a little bit. And the reason I'm saying this is because I was in Calgary for FCM, and I took their study tour about the Planet Youth programs that they're doing. And so the Planet Youth is based on Iceland's Planet Youth program, where they're working on drug prevention, alcohol use prevention amongst youth. And one of the things that came up in Calgary, one of the things that they said is that the challenge is so many of the youth have quite a bit of free time that's not used up. And so it'd be interesting to have a better understanding of what it is our youth would like to do, where we could do it, how we could do it, who else we can partner with, whether it's school boards and sport organizations or art providers, art organizations, what that could be, what that is. It's all very good and well for me to come up with these ideas, but what do they actually want to do that's going to be fun and engaging and get kids busy and choosing healthy things to do after school versus unhealthy things to do after school. So certainly I'd love to hear from the council and maybe that's just something else that we do as well as the city, so.
Okay.
Just to comment on that.
Oh, hang on. Here we go.
Thanks. To comment on that through the chair to Councillor Liu, we certainly can bring that up to the Youth Advisory Committee to share this Planet Youth program with them and pose that question to them about if they have any thoughts or ideas on what youth might do with their free time and who we might be able to partner with to make those happen.
Okay, because like I know when I was a kid, we used to have community center dances. There were certain things that happened and, you know, I don't know if they have them anymore, if it was just something that happened because of COVID and all that stuff stopped, but, you know, I feel like we have, COVID's over enough that we can move on with things, we can have some more activities, we can engage our kids differently and more, you know, get them away from their screens and have some fun.
Okay. All right, hang on here. Okay, Counselor number 2, Mr. Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, thanks for the report. I understand it's relatively new, so it's in the kind of the formative stages. The one thing I was curious about in reading it, these committees and the members of the committees are good for, you know, passing information along to their various groups. But I think that there could be an opportunity too for this type of committee to be really effective in actually reaching out and participating in, you know, speaking directly to certain groups, getting involved if they were so inclined. I realize that's not the typical committee work, but do you think there'd be an opportunity for that? For instance, you know, if you're involved in theater and you're talking about drug prevention or education or some of the things Councillor Liu mentioned, you might be the actual spokesperson for that. Is that something they do, or would it be more of a traditional committee where they receive information, generate reports and ideas, and then disseminate that to their own group?
Through the chair.
Here we are.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. Outreach is not typically part of the role of committee members, but staff do share opportunities for public engagement for the youth members to participate themselves. And as part of their role, staff will share the information with the youth members and naturally hope that they'll have those conversations with their own networks in order to disseminate that information to their own networks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. I mean, sometimes the messenger is almost as important as a message. So coming from a peer or somebody close to being a peer might be more effective than, you know, me, for instance. So anyway, thanks.
Okay, Carol, hang on. There you are, Carol.
Thank you very much. Well, I am the liaison to this Youth Advisory Committee, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of energy in that room, and it's really great to see. They're not shy, and they're not afraid of challenging us as a council and saying, hey, you know, what about this and this? I had tougher questions from them than I have any other committee I've been visited in the last 2 years. I was very impressed with their excitement and energy. I'll give you an example. I brought up like the DARE program that we have for young kids that are in grade 5, and they said, yeah, but that's for kids. We need an adult version of that because we're facing entirely different issues with social media and whatnot, and they really wanted to dig into that, and they're not afraid of rolling up their sleeves and expressing what they see and hear. And I learned things that I didn't know were going on in the schools and the pressures that they're under. So I suspect we're going to get some really excellent reports from them. And if there is something we want to know about, I know they'll jump on it because they already have. And tomorrow's the next meeting already, so, yeah.
Just a comment from me before we go. Yeah, I like when I hear around the table. I hope that this committee is not restrictive and is not just another committee that we're forming because we want to stay with youth. They have tremendous ideas. You will be very surprised, and there are adults here. There are no youth in the room. And don't underestimate them, please. Spent 40 years with youth, and you will be surprised what they will come up. They want us to listen, and they want to be heard. Not for my ideas, their ideas. And that's the problem with the things today is we don't let the youth to express themselves. And just as we were when we were in school, we wanted to do our own thing, et cetera, and be expressive. So I just hope that I'd be hearing what Councillor Day has to say. Obviously, I'm very jealous that she's liaison. I envy the fact that I couldn't be a better committee to be liaison to be quite frank with you. So I hope with your leadership on it, and I really, to be quite frank with you, somebody who's worked in a school district that I'm going to say it, a little more progressive and open-minded with very touchy subjects, such as drug education. In the secondary school, we had a full-time drug counselor. I stepped aside as a counselor, and the drug counselor came in and dealt with the drugs. and I supported him or her 100%. And we had drug education. Not saying we're involved with the school board, but if that's what they want to do, let them go on. You'll be surprised some of the ideas and suggestions that they will come up with and everything else. So anyhow, with that, the recommendation is to approve. I don't think we have any more speakers, do we? No? Okay, online. Motion moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. Okay. All right, the next item is our draft childcare strategy for 24 to 34. It is to be endorsed for public consultation and getting a summary of public feedback at a future date. And we've got Ms. Dugan and Ms. Mellon. So Tiffany, hang on here. I'm getting better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Staff have nothing further to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Where am I here? Hang on. Who is there? What do we got? Okay, well, all right. Let's not put Zoom last. Michael, we're going to you.
Great, thank you through the chair. Just a couple two question areas. One is after reading the report and some of the data and the tables, 5, which is on page 58, and table 7 on page 60, they both included a type of care called the group care school age. And with my situation, having a daughter at 5 and going into kindergarten, I've heard from more parent groups that are in that kind of situation where they didn't get into the school that they had planned for their child and are now sending their child to a different school that's not a short walk away. So they don't have access to the school before or after care. So if you have to drop your kid off on your way to work, which is before the school opens, or you pick your kid up on your way home, which is way after school ends, that's a big stress on parents. And with the tightness of our school district right now, outside of council's hands here. But if I look at the data of maybe staff see it differently and see it as not that big of an issue. But on page 58, under the age 30 months to school age, there's a really large number. And we have a large number of spaces, but we don't have that large of a number going forward. So it goes from almost 4,000 to 2,000 spaces. Whereas previously, as far as this goes back, 1995, it was flipped the other way. There was more spaces at the school age and less at the 30 months to school age. So I don't know if staff see that as an ongoing challenge. I know there is on page 85, it lists some of the challenges, future challenges, and one of them is increasing child population in Richmond and the potential to increase the demand for childcare spaces in the city. And I think that spaces there is really going to be about that school age space. That's a challenge because the schools can only open so much for their students, and then the neighboring areas need to provide a shorter walking distance where they can walk that large group of kids to the school in the morning or after school. So does staff have any comments on that one?
Scott, you're both live, so.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, school-age care is an ongoing concern in the city and has been a priority for a number of years. It is one of the highest priorities identified in the Child Care Action Plan that was developed in 2021. School-age care was also the category of care that was most impacted by the pandemic, as a number of many school-age parents pulled their children out of childcare. They were working from home. They were able to make arrangements around the school hours to get their work done, perhaps take a coffee break at 3 o'clock to go and pick their children up. And we lost school-age spaces during the immediate time post-pandemic. We're in the process of doing some rebuilding, and so as you can see, there has been an increase from 1995 when our first strategy was developed. And so there is an action specifically in the strategy, Action 7.1, which speaks to the creation of additional school-age spaces. And the other significant action that is currently underway is with the school district. School District 38 currently has 4 new childcare facilities under construction that all include additional school-age childcare spaces as well. So definitely a high priority for staff.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That addresses a big portion of that concern that I saw in the numbers. My second question area through the chair to staff is in regards to what we're seeing the need in the community to rezone a house, a residential house, into a business that can handle 40 plus childcare spaces. Are we seeing that we're needing individuals to make this consideration to change their house or utilize it differently and have a large impact on the neighborhood for drop-off and pickup time when it comes to congestion in our roads? And also, are we asking people to make retrofits to have buildings accommodate that number of people in it during the day and the energy demands and all that other demand?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, rezoning applications to rezone residential property into larger childcare space is not a common occurrence. And perhaps if there's specific questions, one of my colleagues from development applications could respond to that.
I guess a specific question is, do we have some of these on the go right now that we're considering? And should we be making it publicly known that we want more people to consider to do this?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we do have one application that is currently under review on Woodhead Road. They are currently operating an 8-space home-based childcare facility. They have applied for rezoning in order to allow the property to be used for full childcare purposes. As part of that review, staff are requesting additional information regarding what's required in order to convert the existing building, as well as a traffic study in order to further determine the appropriateness of the rezoning.
Do we have any comment, last follow-up here, do we have any comment on, do we need more applications? Like, is this something where should we be publicly advertising people to help out the shortage?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the provision of childcare in residential properties is typically currently addressed through 2 different license categories, family childcare and in-home multi-age care. Those 2 license categories are incredibly easy to include in a typical residential facility. Larger facilities than that, which are not typically allowed under our residential zoning, often do require significant retrofits, which may not be cost-effective in the long run.
Okay, great. Thanks for the responses.
Okay. All right. Andy? Sorry.
There you go. Thanks. And through the chair. Well, first, thanks for the report. It's extremely comprehensive with lots of information. And if anybody ever wondered if Richmond is doing enough or doing anything, have a look at the report. A couple of quick comments about it too is that the 82%, I think it is, satisfaction among those surveyed is pretty remarkable. I wouldn't mind an 82% approval rating, but I don't think I'll ever get there. But and then one of the stats I did just want to quickly ask about was, I think on page 17, it refers to 38%, and on page 65, 34.8% in terms of accessibility to care. So could you just comment on what is it about those 2 things that's a little bit different?
Yep, through the chair. So Metro Vancouver used a projected or estimated number for the child population, and they also pulled their childcare space data in September of 2023, and we pulled ours at the end of December 2023. So the numbers are slightly different, and their population projection for 2023 is around 600 more children than the 2021 census data. So that's why there's a difference in number.
Off. No. And even with that slight difference, Richmond is still, as the report indicates, higher than almost anybody else. And the ones that are slightly higher, there's reasons for that, that are a little bit unique to their situation, right?
Yeah, through the chair. So Richmond currently has 38 childcare spaces per 100 children. When we compare similar municipalities with a similar child population, such as Burnaby, they've got 22.1 spaces. Coquitlam has 27.7 spaces and Langley has 25.1. And the only three areas in Metro Vancouver who have got higher spaces than Richmond are Tsawwassen First Nations, UBC and Pitt Meadows, and they've all got really small child population compared to Richmond. So yeah, we see it as a significant achievement.
Right, so the stats bear out the fact that it is a good report and that you're doing a lot. The last question I have is just about, kind of relates to the $10 a day daycare versus preschool care. And what I've heard from a few members in the community is that, you know, it's difficult to compete perhaps, or put the two head to head, the $10 a day kind of all day daycare versus preschool, say at a community center, for instance. Why is it that there's that difference? What's happening to close that gap? Because I think it's hard for one to compete against the other because it's not exactly apples and apples. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, that is correct. The federal government and provincial governments who provide the funding for the $10 a day childcare program did and continue to prioritize full-time childcare so that parents are able to attend work or school, and have just gradually started to expand the program to include part-time programs, including before and after school care and preschool. Currently, there are 14 preschool programs out of 147 in Metro Vancouver that are part of the $10 a day program, so a very small number. And all of those, almost all of those, are associated with multi-program facilities. So, for example, a neighborhood house that might have all types of care and has been able to bring their preschool program under that $10 a day umbrella.
Okay, so we're moving towards that. And my last comment through the chair would just be, because I know, for instance, some of the community centers have excellent preschool programs, right? And so if we can level that playing field a little bit, however it has to be done, and I think we're working towards that eventually with different stakeholders. So, because they do offer great programs, I think, at our community centers and elsewhere. So.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yes, that's true. We are moving slowly towards a universal system, and this is one of the growing pains that has been a part of that process, is that there is always some program that comes last, and our preschool programs are being impacted by that prioritization.
Okay, well, thank you. Great.
Okay, Carol.
Thank you very much. Yeah, these are always the most thorough reports. You guys just cover everything. So I just want to talk about, again, the $10 a day daycare. On page 71 or 48 of the report, it says the Canada-wide early learning and childcare agreement, each province agreed to reduce average parent fees by 50% by December of 2022. And that has passed. And reducing them to an average of $10 a day by 2025, 2026. But then when I look at the affordability, we're not quite there. So what can the council do to lobby the province, lobby the feds to get more of those $10 a day spots?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, there have been two primary mechanisms that the province is using to reduce parent fees and increase affordability. One is the $10 a day program. The other is the childcare fee reduction initiative. The fee reduction initiative has been more widely applied across Richmond and serves to reduce parent fees by up to $900 depending on the age of the child and type of care. We have identified actions in the strategy with regards to continued advocacy to senior levels of government, with regards to operating funding and affordability measures to support parents.
Okay, so we'll get going on that. And the numbers are very impressive. When Richmond has 24,507 children, 0 to 12, and 8,500 spots Whereas if you look at, we'll go with Burnaby, 29,000, and they have only 6,400 spots. So I feel like through all the developments that we've done, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, we've created a lot more childcare spaces with the help of zoning and working with builders to create childcare in the new communities.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, Richmond is doing exceptionally well, and the Metro Vancouver data that you're referring to definitely identifies that Richmond is a leader in this area.
Yeah, well, no reason to rest on our laurels. Thank you.
Okay, Alexa.
Yeah. Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for this report. I'm looking at PLN 46, and I'm looking at the number of children by age. And we see back in 2016, it was just over 10.
Sorry, I don't know why I lost you there.
Just over 10,000 kids 0 to 5 years old, but then 10 years later, they haven't translated into kids in junior high school, basically, the 10 to 12 year, or I guess the 10 to 12 year is such a small group, it's missing some of those kids, but you're not really, it doesn't seem to translate for the kids going into the next level. And so, you know, if we look at this, it almost looks like there's a ton more kids coming into the school system in the next little while. And is that true? Is it not? Because if we follow the 2016 numbers, it's almost like they didn't get here somehow.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, one of the factors that impacts the data in figure 1 on page 46 is it doesn't track movement in and out of Richmond. And so one of the things that potentially impacts that school age component of this data is families coming into Richmond, perhaps with younger children living in apartments or smaller dwellings, and then moving out of Richmond during school age, or families who have not lived in Richmond and then moving into Richmond as their children enter school. And that data is not something that we have the ability to track.
Okay, so it seems a little tricky because I know the school board was definitely surprised this year. I think they had an extra 1,600 kids register for school this year, and they were just gobsmacked at the numbers. They weren't ready for that influx, but hopefully they can see these numbers coming along and they know those kids are likely coming to school at some point. You also mention in the PLN 42, you talk about, you know, Fernie's co-locating EC housing and with their childcare spaces. I'm guessing we probably don't have a huge mechanism for this because at $25 to $30 an hour, they fall outside of, for a single person, they fall outside of our sort of pay band zone. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, the province is currently reporting that the average wage for an early childhood educator, including their wage supplement, is about $28 an hour. So early childhood educators do fall sort of on that cusp of whether they are eligible for subsidized supportive affordable housing or not. They're right in the challenging spot.
In the gray zone, because it would be nice if we could help secure housing that people can afford to live in, especially for this particular cohort of people, because we have the need of their services. It also talks about intergeneration care spaces. So I know that there's certainly a growing need for, you know, Alzheimer's daycare, those kind of things. Are we looking at any of that? I know there's a lot of focus right now to partner with schools and things, but have we looked at the flip side of it and partnering with other groups like care homes and things like that?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, certainly on a provincial level, all of the provincial ministries were directed in their intent letters at the beginning of this government's taking power to consider childcare for all future capital builds. And so we do know that Vancouver Coastal Health is considering that for some of their future opportunities here in Richmond. As well, BC Housing is considering that in the redevelopment of housing that they're looking at upgrading or recreating. And so it is happening with our provincial partners, and the ability to certainly encourage that with private developers or private partners would also be something we would like to encourage.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, do we have any ability to have some sort of for permissive exemption or different zoning if we were trying to encourage things like a flexible childcare, like would flexible childcare that operates weekends, nights, that kind of thing, does that, like it falls under childcare, so it's taxed and operated the same as everybody else, but if we wanted, would we be able to create a different category for that and tax them differently, give them some sort of benefit to exist?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, the licensing requirements for flexible or overnight care are minimally different than the regular childcare licensing requirements. So it certainly doesn't create a challenge for a residential unit as far as permissive exemptions or other bonuses or opportunities. That would be something that council could likely consider.
Okay, thank you. Just because I know it's a tricky one. I know we have a big hospital with people working shifts, the ability to have access to that flexible part-time, once in a while, someone that's, you know, safe, careful, whatever, meets all the criteria, but then, you know, for them to go through all the hoops to only have some people some of the time, maybe doesn't make it useful for a lot of people. But I'm just sort of wondering how we can, if we have a huge need for it. I know we've determined maybe that we don't have a huge need for it because right now most people are sort of dealing with working with friends and family and juggling kids around all over the place versus having stable, secure spaces like Sweden in your report talks about.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, we did a little bit of analysis of this at the beginning of the pandemic in anticipation potentially of the need for first responders, hospital staff, et cetera, to require 24-hour-a-day childcare should things have proven to be a little bit different than they did. There was at that time no licensed providers in Richmond that were providing overnight care. We did have one provider who was willing to convert their facility and add in the minor adjustments that they needed to do that, and no demand was identified through any of our conversations at that point. It does appear that most people are using informal friends and family situations to meet that childcare need.
Okay, so it's not a challenge for us, not an issue at present.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, not to our knowledge. It is a priority for us to consider, but it is not something that is, there are lots of people out there identifying that they need overnight care.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions of staff?
Move recommendation.
Seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you very much. Super job. Okay, and our last item is from the housing agreement, affordable housing for bylaw 10548, housing agreement, moderate market rental bylaw 10549, and the housing agreement market rental bylaw 10550 to permit the city of Richmond to secure low-end market rentals, Lemur rental units, moderate and market rental units at 6071 Azure Road. And there is a change in the bylaw and the rezoning, or the, not the rezone, secure it in terms of giving first, second, and third. And then the item and the other bylaw 10550. So all three of them. And hang on a minute there, we're going to put Greg on the, yes, you are live, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything else to add. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, Carol, we're going to start with you. No.
Thank you much. This is redevelopment of a property where there is rentals right now. And I understand there's 50 units right now, and they will be replaced by 50 Lemur units. What will the ability be for these people to relocate back when the new units are built?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Day, there are a number of supports that will be provided to existing tenants. So they will have short-term relocation assistance, and then they'll have first right of refusal to return to the new build.
Good. And then the tenants who apply for Lemur housing, I was happy to see on page 154 that we're now requiring 3 years income statement. Is that from Revenue Canada?
That's correct, through you, Mr. Chair.
So it's just, you know it's for real. Excellent. I noticed that there's going to be two four-story buildings with a total of 330 units and one 4 to 6 story on page 99. We don't know whether it's going to be 4 or 6?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Day, it's a stepped building, so a portion's 4, a portion's 6.
Okay, so it's not going to be a square box, it's going to level up.
That's right.
Perfect. And the neighbors to the west of this are in a cul-de-sac and single-family homes. How will they be affected by the shadowing and whatnot?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Day, looking at the site plan, the 4 stories are to the east of those properties, so it may not be affected by shadowing, given the location.
Okay, that's great. Well, we're desperately in need of 110 moderate rental units and 50 lemur units, so I'll be supporting this.
Okay, any other comments? Move seconded. All those in favor, contrary, carry. Thanks very much. Okay, managers' reports. Yep, we have some. Okay, come on up. Mic number 2 is available.
Hello, yes. So we have received a development permit application for Phase 2 of the Richmond Centre Mall. This is Phase 2 of a 2-phase development. This portion of the redevelopment is focused along the southern and eastern portions of the site, which includes removal of the parkade and parking lot to the north of City Hall with infill involving high-rise and mixed-use buildings. The proposal includes 6 13-story towers. This will include 2 directly in front of to the north of City Hall, 2 further north into the mall, towards the mall, and 2 fronting onto Number 3 Road. The application includes 9,200 square meters of commercial use and 84,000 square meters of residential development. It involves 1,171 residential units, of which 575 would be market strata, 563 market rental, and 33 affordable. The rental units are dispersed throughout a number of the buildings and meet the city's criteria for family-friendly units. Just a quick update.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Sabia. Number 1, when we negotiated the original rental, obviously this doesn't have to have a rezoning, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, just
So
a
we
development
cannot
permit.
ask for anything else.
That's correct, in terms of anything affecting use and density.
It's a pity how the group of 1984 gave way when you look at the massiveness over there. Do we know what kind, when I look at 9,200 square feet of commercial, compared to what's been in Richmond Center now, it's night and day apart. I mean, we're getting nothing. Are we not going to have any stores over there, any retail? With all the massive buildings that are coming now and what we see there? Do we
Yes.
know what their plans are? Sorry.
Yes, through the chair, there's additional commercial development as part of both Phase 1, which is under construction, and proposed in Phase 2, some of it being street fronting along some of the new road that will be created, and some of it more internal to the mall, adding on at the south edge.
But that's it. And we don't know what's happening. I mean, it's not your fault or anything like that. I'm just concerned as a citizen and for the shopping in the downtown core. It's great to make the hue and cry, we need a rental, we need units, but there's nowhere to buy a quart of milk anymore. And you're gonna have to go way down the street. So it's a pity. I guess it's behind us.
Sorry, through the chair, I believe there is a grocery store as part of the development, so
Okay.
there is, we're not losing the majority of the mall itself, but there will be additional space within the mall at the southern edge, as well as street facing, which include a variety of different uses.
And do we still have build right up to the edge of the sidewalk? Like, there's no setback, right?
Through the zoning that's tailored to the site, there are some setbacks from the edge, but generally, the design is to create a bit of a streetscape. So there are, yes.
Okay. Any questions from other members of staff? Carol?
So is this still Cadillac Fairview that's building this project? Because they, yeah, it's the same. Now, Phase 1 was pre-approved a long time ago, and we had very little affordable housing. Is there any negotiating available to get a bigger percentage of affordable housing in this large complex?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, unfortunately, any changes to use or density would require a rezoning, and this is currently just a development permit. But there were percentages of affordable and market rental housing that were negotiated as part of the original official community plan update.
Can you remind me what the percentage of affordable housing was?
Yes, for the overall development, it was a 5% affordable housing and another 10% for market rental.
Yeah, we've come a long ways from 5% to where we are today, so good, thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments from anybody? Okay, thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to introduce you to Planning Committee, to a new planner that just started yesterday. Emily Huang is our new planner too. And she will be assisting us with the OCP update and public consultation. And we've stole her from the city of New Westminster and she's worked for the city of Vancouver as well. So just wanted to welcome Emily.
Welcome to our city and to the team. Greatly appreciate it. And if you could steal some more, would you go out there with your bag and see what you can do? Thank you very much. Anything else for managers? Motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, all. Okay.